All right, welcome back to another episode of Building Your Life podcast. My name is Doug Sandler, along with the real host of the show, and he's not even behind a mask today. It is John Browning. John, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for being here and helping me out with the show. It's always good to have somebody to talk to. I don't want to just be talking to myself, right?
I host this other show called The Nice Guys on Business, and of the nearly 1,400 episodes that we have done, I can count on one hand the amount of times I've done a monologue or solo episode. I don't like doing them. I much prefer having at least a conversation with somebody, even if it's an opposing view. I'd much rather have somebody sitting across the table, either virtually or literally, for me. So I'm excited to be able to be here and talk to you about all the stuff that I don't know about. I'm going to play the lane. I host this other show. Forgot to tell you this. I host this other show called Something to Whine About. It's a wine podcast. Okay.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And on the show, I was brought on to be the layman, the guy that knows nothing about wine. You know, I come on the show and I'm like, what does this wine taste like? It's very grape forward. You know, I was like, I don't know.
I would be good on that show too for I know nothing about wine, but I really enjoy it.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm that way too. I love reds. And when I heard that there was an opportunity to co-host the show with you, I'm like, well, I don't know a lot about it. I have investments and I've worked in the past with planners and I have all these things like mutual funds and ETFs. And, you know, I've even used like the thing on your phone, the Robinhood app and some of the apps, and even dabbled a little bit. I think it's $75 in crypto. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm like,
now we're $20.
Yeah, that's not what, yeah, that market is down like really bad, isn't it? We don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I don't want to talk about crypto.
We'll talk about that in another episode. Yeah,
it's interesting. Yeah. Crypto in terms of disruption of an industry and crypto innovation. And innovation. Absolutely,
all financial industry. Yeah,
it's amazing. All of that stuff. We'll talk about that at another time. But when I heard that there was an opportunity to co-host the show with you, I thought this would be great because here's a chance for the guy or the woman that is listening to this show, for me to take that perspective, and not because I have to lower my smarts to be there. I am with you. If you're listening to the show, I'm hopefully asking the same questions that you would have when it came to investment advice and investment opportunities and the things that John is an expert at. How did you get into this field to begin with, John? It's like, do you like spreadsheets? Do you like that kind of stuff?
I do like spreadsheets. I have to admit it. Yes.
How'd you get in? How'd you get started?
I could tell you that I planned this out from the time I was in high school and very specifically targeted this, but I would be lying. So I don't want to do that. Bottom line is, when I graduated high school, I went to school in West Virginia in high school. So I grew up there. And frankly, I was told that I should probably choose something in agriculture, do those tests to find out what you'd be best at. And you know what? Frankly, and I probably shouldn't say this, but given your grades and everything, we're thinking, yeah, probably not a college candidate for you.
Understood.
And I decided, as I usually did in those days, not to take anyone's advice. And I took my test and I applied to those colleges and believe it or not, did get into one.
Wow.
And proceeded to nearly flunk out my first semester. We were actually on the quarter system then. So my first quarter. And, my dad's like, hey, dude, I'm not paying for this.
Yeah, at $2,500 a quarter, which was probably about what it was when you and I went to school. So. Yeah, it wasn't very expensive. You gotta do better than what you were doing, huh?
Right. So, that got me going. I was like, I am not going to fail at this. I am going to figure out. And it was really just a matter of learning how to study. And so I got through and I said, well, what do you want to major in? I said, I don't know. I'm going to major in business because I had these little small businesses. I made tons of money in high school just doing odd jobs. So I had kind of done, how do I really run one? So I learned business and started to emphasize finance. And then when I got out, we were in the middle of a very bad recession. You could not buy a job, especially not as a new grad. It was in 1991, those of you who remember back that far. Some of you listening to this are like, holy cow, that guy's ancient. But
that makes me really ancient then, because I graduated in '86.
I had graduated high school in '87. So, but yeah, I was just, so bottom line, I had made some contacts in college. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And eventually, finally, somebody took mercy on me and said, listen, we'll take you for a customer service job at this firm called Van Kampen Merritt, and which was eventually bought by Morgan Stanley. And I was just, this is John Browning. How can I help you today?
Oh, you were dialing for dollars, man.
Over and over again. 100 plus calls a day. And
that's hell.
And after doing that for about 6 months, I was like, I got to stop. I got to find something else. So I began to just volunteer for everything. Anything that came up, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And that got me noticed, and eventually became an analyst, and then became a portfolio manager, ran a trading desk, ran a big, $157 billion organization that I ran for a little while, ran portfolio management, risk management, and all that. And it was all fun. It was a learning experience, but I decided at some point that I wanted to build a life and not just chase Wall Street, and that hence the book, hence where I am now, helping what I call regular people out. So that's the story.
Well, it's a pretty interesting story. I mean, one of the things that I have discovered about you is that it's while the numbers are important, and obviously performance and doing a good job for your clients is important, I've discovered you're as good or better as a relationship guy than you are as an advisor guy. I mean, you're definitely great as an advisor, but the relationship, you seem to lead with that.
I do, because that's, in my opinion, life is way more important than the numbers. And the numbers are strictly a tool. The money is a tool. That's a quote in the book for me, and I use it all the time. Is we help you build your best life using the tool. That is all it is. And when we get that out of focus, then we get life out of focus, and things start to fall apart, and you start hating getting up in the morning. But if you get the idea that life's more important and relationships are more important, so much happier. Agreed.
Well, let's dig in a little bit. We promised this for now. It seems like 40 episodes, but we've been promising this for about 3 episodes that we're going to talk about technology and how it affects, whether it's the customer experience or it actually affects the opportunities that you have to invest in as you look for opportunities out there in the investment world. So either one, whether it's a customer experience side of things and technology making your life easier, or, okay, what investment opportunities do we actually look at for your clients when it comes to advising them? So either direction is good for me. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I think touching on the customer service side of it, it's interesting because some of my older clients, older than me, they find the technology tougher. And while, somebody my age or younger than me sees it as that makes my life so much easier. All I have to do is type with my thumbs 3 things and everything comes up. I can, that's great. For somebody who's maybe in their 80s, 70s, they're just like, dude, would you just get on the call? Just call me. And then I say, well, I'd love to do a Zoom call with you. And they're like, oh, go.
Oh, no. No, I know my mom's 90. And I just remember, we put her on paperless statements, and just that alone, going to your computer to open up a PDF is a big challenge. My mom thinks if she doesn't get a statement in the mail that the money actually didn't make it into her bank account. So if she gets X amount of dollars a month from an advisor, from an investment that she has, and she doesn't get the statement, she's like, I don't think it made it into the account. I'm like, Mom, I'm looking at your bank and it's in your bank. I know, but I didn't get the statement. So I hear where you're coming from for sure.
Yeah. So you have to meet people where they are. And so if you want to talk on the phone, I'll talk on the phone. But certainly the innovation and the things that has made things easier, has made things, frankly, cheaper. And you do find, as we always do, right, when there's new technology, new innovation, that there are some unintended consequences, and you have to watch out for that. But it's vastly different from when I started my career, and vastly cheaper. And and you can do more stuff. With that also comes the problem that sometimes people tend to trade their account more often.
Yeah.
And feel and more often, I say investing is like a bar of soap. The more you use it, the less there is of it. Because if you start trading that and timing the market and doing it, you end up with less than you started with. So that can be a danger of the technology and innovation as well. But
yeah, if you're in the listening community and you're one of the buy high, sell low, if that's your model, it probably isn't the best model for you to follow. And trying to time the market or do any of that, don't do it. So if you're here to listen to an expert, that's why John is here. He is the guy. And you sent to me some subjects that you wanted to talk about. And from a customer experience perspective, you can't get any better than John. I mean, he's there. He's going to answer the call. You're not being put in the chat room. You're not being responded to by a bot. You're not going to get let me put you in voicemail. You're actually going to talk to John. Has that been your experience with your clients, John?
Absolutely. I don't tell people, listen, I'm going to pick up every call, because I can't, because that wouldn't be fair to the person I'm on the call with, right? So if I'm on the call with another client or servicing another client, I'm not going to pick up your call, but I will call you back. And I make the promise to my clients that I will call you back within 48 hours. And that's only because sometimes there's a weekend or a holiday that I take to be with my family. Generally speaking, I'm going to call you back that same day. Even sometimes my wife yells at me, and maybe this is not good work-life balance, but because I have clients in Hawaii and on the West Coast, like yourself, I take calls at 9, 10 o'clock at night, because in Hawaii, it's not 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's like in the afternoon, and that's when they live their lives. I've got to be available for that. So I am.
So things have changed so rapidly. You mentioned technology changes so fast, and so how you interface with a client sometimes, and how a client interfaces with their investments sometimes is not good to be able to have such quick access to it, because people jump. If they don't have to go through a hoop, they jump sometimes way too quickly. So trying to time the market is never a good thing. So let's talk about some of the things that, from an investment perspective, that have grossly affected, some positive and some negative, the things that we are investing in. It's not like we're just going to the easy things anymore. Like, hey, if I want a gas stock, I'm going to go to one of the gas companies. Now we're talking about, companies like, Tesla and Microsoft and companies that are and Twitter that are well, it used to be Twitter. I don't think, is Twitter even traded anymore on the stock market?
Oh yeah, they're there.
So it's like, actually,
no, because they are.
Yeah, Musk took it private. Again, we're not giving you investment advice. We're not telling you to buy any of those stocks that we just mentioned, but it's like the things in that environment change so quickly. I mean, because of like an invention, something could happen literally overnight to take a stock from penny stock to a stock that's worth, a couple $100 a share. So what's the stuff that we should even be looking at? What sectors are we looking at, or what ideas are we looking at when it comes to investment now?
Yeah, and I think this is so important, because it's yes, you can make money, life-changing money, if you happen to hit the right company at the right time and buy it for pennies. Everybody talks about, well, if you would have bought Amazon at $2 a share, now you'd be a multimillionaire, and same thing with Tesla, and name the big company, right? And that's all true. The agonizing part, and the part that most people cannot get through, is the fact that Tesla just about went bankrupt. I mean, days from going bankrupt. Amazon, what? That's never going to work. What are you talking about? And they struggled, right?
They said that about Fred Smith and FedEx also.
Oh yeah, FedEx. I mean, he got a failing grade for proposing the idea of FedEx. Wow. And so all of that, right? That all factors into it. And it's so easy because we see it on the news. We get excited about. I remember, so I'll just tell myself here, early in my career, there was this thing called fiber optics, and they were laying this stuff. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? They were laying this stuff across oceans, right? And you could talk to, so you could send data and it downloaded in just minutes. And now we talk about how 5G is going to download a movie in 60 seconds, which, by the way, I still haven't had that happen. You must have to stand in exactly the right spot to get that to happen. But
you got to put the rabbit ears up. You haven't put the rabbit ears up on your head yet, have you? And get your kid to adjust the rabbit ears. I was the kid adjusting the rabbit ears. I would get the smack on the back of the head. Dougie, go fix the rabbit ears so that we can get the reception on the UHF channel. Remember UHF and VHF?
Uh-huh. Oh, but we get so excited about those things. I got excited about that. I bought a company early in my career. I didn't have much money. I was just getting started, and it was into the fiber optics, right? And so just to let you know, that company no longer exists.
Oh, boy.
So I lost nearly everything. But boy, was it great for a while because it was all the rage, right? And we still use fiber optics today. And it's still great for sending data, but there are so many more better ways. So it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of what people are talking about. But a lot of times there's this thing that we talk about called the J curve. So people can't see me if you're listening in the car or whatever, but I'm making a J with my finger. So things start out as the first innovation. You have your early adopters, and the people are starting to make a lot of money. They're starting to anticipate this is going to be big. And then you go through the thing, well, wow, this thing isn't working as well as we thought. And you kind of go down. And then they make improvements on that, and it begins to become more widely adopted. And you kind of start, bottoming out and coming up the J curve. So it's really tough to figure out when to invest in these things.
All right, so you make a valuable point. As you were doing that, the first thing that came to my brain was cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a proponent of cryptocurrency, but where on that J, and I know it's hard because it's a lot easier to spot the J after the fact, then you can go back and look at it. Where on the J do you think that crypto is? Any idea? Can I even ask you that question legally?
You can ask that question, and we're going to say it again. This is not investment advice.
Right? I'm just curious. I'm curious. Yeah.
Give me a call. So I believe we are at the bottom of that J. And to me, because I've just done this for 3 decades, right? You could kind of tell. It was fun. I threw a couple bucks at it. I got out about a year ago, and we did a podcast. I believe we did a podcast called What's Your Kryptonite? And it was all about cryptocurrency. And it was about a year and a half maybe ago or something like that. I'll have to look it up. And it was all about, hey, this looks a little bit overhyped. I don't think it's going away. I think it's an innovation that is useful and useful in ways that many of us don't really understand yet. But I think we're at the bottom of that J curve. We've got to work through the regulation. What's it going to be? And boy, did we find out unfortunately, we need regulation. And because of what happened with FTX, and there's always bad actors, unfortunately. And you're going to see all these companies that aren't so good and all these coins that aren't so good and don't have a real purpose. You're going to see those fall off. Things like, again, not investment advice, but Ethereum, Bitcoin, and things that have real solid uses, not just for transactions in currency and the store of value and all that, but also for smart contracts.
All right. Well,
huge implications.
So technology moves so fast at breakneck speed, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. How savvy or unsavvy, if that's a word, how savvy does someone need to be in order to feel confident that those kind of investments are even worth looking at or putting in as a part of their portfolio? It would seem to me that it would be a mistake not to have some of that stuff in my own personal, list of investments. But at the same time, I'm the kind of guy that I like to invest and forget. I don't even want to open up my statements because I am looking at 20 years from now when I retire. I'm not looking at tomorrow. So it doesn't really even matter what happens in the night. But how savvy does a guy like me, most of our listeners that are listening right now, need to be in order for them to determine, do I need to even focus on technology? Is that something I leave to the pros like you to worry about for me? And how do you know?
Phenomenal question. That is one of the best questions that I could have been asked, because I truly believe that the answer is, unless you are involved directly in the industry that we're talking about, like you developed XYZ technology or were part of it, I would say stay away from trying to do this yourself. If you're not constantly studying it, if you're good at what you do over here, stick with that, make the money, and get to a solid investment advisor who can invest that for you, because that's what they do every day. And they look at that. Matter of fact, there are sectors of the market that I know are up and coming. I am excited about them, but I don't have the time or the expertise to look into each one of those individual companies. So we use an exchange traded fund for those sectors of the market. But should you have part of your portfolio, arguably, again, not investment advice, but arguably, if you are, well, no matter what your age, I think, but it's all about portion control. So if you're younger and you have a longer time horizon, a little bit more can go into those growth companies. We call them growth companies, and those innovation stocks. And as you get older, you get a little bit less of those, because it's all about sequence of returns and portion control. Just like eating, I tend to
make a lot of analogies in the eating world.
Yeah, there's a lot of analogies there in the fitness world. Yeah, so that's. Is that a good answer though?
Yeah. And if you think about it, think about those things that we are all a little bit leery of investing in: cryptocurrency, technology, anything that involves nanotechnology, any of the things that are involved in 5G and artificial intelligence. Those today are what 100 years ago were the things like, I look back in doing some research for the series of episodes that we were doing. I was looking back at your suggestion at some of the inventions of the 1920s as opposed to the 2020s. The Band-Aid was invented in the 1920s, and the advertisement campaign was put into play. In the 1920s, sunglasses were invented. So can you imagine somebody saying, I don't know if I want to invest in the sunglass industry. I think it's going to go away. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry now. The quick frozen food, Clarence Birdseye invented in the 1920s. Can you imagine saying it's a risky technology? I'm not sure I'm going to go into it now. Do you see some similarities between the craziness that we thought in the 1920s, if anybody was around at that time that's still listening to podcasts, or the technology that we have today? Do you think that we could draw some comparisons between the craziness that we think in today's technology as opposed to the 1920s technology, when they still thought things were crazy back then too?
Yes, absolutely. It's so there's actually a paper somewhere out on our website, guardianrockwealth.com. I wrote a white paper. I should republish it, about the Roaring 20s being the 1920s. It was actually started in like 1918, but kind of went into the 20s. And you saw this massive influx of innovation. So we had the Model T, we had the radio, we had some of the other things that you mentioned. All of that happened. So it helped transportation, communication, all those things that helped the economy had this massive influx, and the stock market went up. At the same time, people, might remember there was also a crash during that time, right? So things got overhyped and fell back down. That's just the cycle of the market. Then you have the 2020s, which again, really, when you look at these innovations, they really started in the 1900s. Right. 2020s is when we're seeing things become profitable. We're seeing genomics go from, they could sequence DNA for hundreds of thousands of dollars just 5 or 6 years ago. Now it's like $900 to sequence your DNA. It's a big, big difference, right? And once the costs come down, it becomes affordable, and suddenly we'll be able to use it. And the thing that's really different about these roaring 2000s or these 20s versus the other ones is we are exponentially better off now than we were then. And these technologies are actually integrated together. So things like, and we'll talk about this maybe, the different portions, the 5 pillars of innovation. But one of the main pillars is artificial intelligence, for example. Scariest thing in the world to me. But it's here.
I love it. I love it. I wrote an email to my clients. I said, Chat GPT, just write an email to my clients thanking them for a great year. And it literally wrote a 5-sentence email to all of my clients. It was the easiest thing and the best thing. And I got to tweak it. I said, could you make it a little bit more podcasty in its terms? And then it's amazing. Technology is the best thing. I love it. I get scared of it when it comes to because it seems such a volatile investment. I get scared when there's an opportunity to invest in it, thinking everything's going to be like Bitcoin, or everything's going to be like crypto, or everything's going to be like that stock that you buy high and sell low. It's the amateur's dream when it comes to investments. It's like that's the worst way that you can invest. How does one know what's even safe? I mean, when it comes to, and you're the guy that's in charge of all of these people advising them. So how do you even know what to look at or what to even consider when it comes to technology?
Safe and investing in new technology don't really go in the same. Right. And so again, it comes back to that portion control, and making sure that another big trap that people fall into when they're investing in innovations, they get excited. They made a lot of money. Why in the world would you sell it? It's just going to go up forever.
No.
And I have these conversations, and it really is. I talked to one very sweet lady who she was in a different coin that had done very well. She was up past $1 million. And this was somebody who didn't have a lot of means, but she picked it and it was great and up over $1 million. And I was trying to tell her, listen, you don't have to sell it all. Shave some of the profits off. 2 things she told me. I don't want to pay the taxes, and it's going to keep going up. It is. She finally got out for, I think it was $75,000. She was up over $1 million, and that coin.
See, that's the crazy thing about technology, because it comes and goes so fast, and it's because it's so volatile. You're going to don't do that. Take the advice that an advisor is actually trained and experienced to do. And John is just that guy. I love listening to your advice when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it's like, I usually end up making the wrong move. If it's up to me, I'm like, what would John do? Oh, John would do that? Okay. I would have probably done the exact opposite thing. John's always right, though, and I am always wrong.
Not always right.
So next episode that we come back, I want to talk to you about a hypothetical scenario where I'm coming to you. I'm trying to figure out, like, where do I even begin? How do I even start this investment opportunity? How do I even start to think about whether it's choosing the advisor, which is obvious to me that John's the advisor, but it's more like, how do you even determine what to put stuff into? How do you, not actual stocks themselves, but how do you know, like, the mentality? Okay, how far off on the horizon is my retirement? What kind of risk am I willing to take? All those kind of things. Can you help me walk through that?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. That sounds like an interesting episode, and we'll have to be careful and talk all the time about this. Not personal investment advice. This is hypothetical for a hypothetical person, but yes.
If anybody knows me, they know it's hypothetical, because hypothetically, in reality, I have no money. So hypothetically, it's all that we're going to be able to talk about anyway. So let's. I'm just kidding. I have a couple of dollars.
You have a couple bucks.
Yeah, I do. I just keep it in the Sentry safe in my house, though. All right, we'll see you again next week, John. Thanks for chatting with us. And again, before we head out of here, tell those that are listening in our community, what's the best way to reach out to you if they want to get more information about how to connect with you and your company?
Sure. Super easy to go out to guardianrockwealth.com and click the Contact Us page, or grab your phone, type in the texting app 321-421-5213 and text the word life. And you'll get my business card with all my information and even a spot to schedule some time with me. Again, don't second guess yourself. I'm happy to talk with anyone, no matter where they are in their financial journey. If I cannot help you, or if it really doesn't require something extensive, then I will give you my best advice and the best value that I can, and send you on your way. And maybe it'll be sometime later when you'll be ready for what we really do here at Guardian Rock Wealth.
The king of no pressure, that is John Browning. He just wants to make sure you're getting the right advice in the right time. All that information that he gave about connecting with him, including the text, his access to his book and his website, will be right there in the show notes. John, good to see you again. See you again next week.
All right, sounds good.